Now, I want to ask about net zero 2050. Your position is that Australia will be punished if we don't sign such an agreement because we might get tariffs from places like the EU. What do you say to those who believe this is the very wrong thing to do?
We haven't made any formal commitments about net zero by 2050, but we are discussing the consequences of such a commitment and indeed the plan. And the plan is what Angus Taylor's been working on, and it's a plan that we've already implemented to get so far in terms of our 2030 target, and it's a plan that we're working through and considering in the context of longer term targets. But the key fact to understand here is that the coalition only commits to targets that it seeks to meet and to beat, and that has been our experience with the Kyoto target, and it's what we're on track to do with respect to the Paris target.
But again, people believe, and rightly so, that we already have a climate commitment via Paris that takes us to 2030. If this was to be adopted, would it kick in after 2030?
And that's why we've been talking about plans, because plans will have details and they give a sense of how the technology, not the tax route, can actually reduce emissions. Let's bear in mind right now, Paul, that 1 in 4 Australian households have solar panels on their roofs, the highest on a per capita basis anywhere in the world. The financial markets are already moving, and they're already factoring in moving to net zero by 2050. And this matters to Australia because we rely so heavily on foreign investment, $4 trillion worth of foreign investment in Australia, and also half of our government bonds are bought by foreign investors, and around 20% of our bank borrowing is from offshore. And the way they fund home mortgages, the way they fund small business loans, is through those foreign borrowings. And we want the markets to advantage us, not disadvantage us, and that's why I was bringing those issues to attention.
Would Treasury, we need to know what the costs of this transition are. It's not about whether climate change exists or not. For me, it's about the cost of the transitions being suggested here. Now, the CSIRO has a report that $1 trillion would need to be spent to upgrade the energy network alone. Would Treasury do modelling on the economic impacts of net zero 2050?
Well, we absolutely factor in what the economic costs are in the transition. And you've got to get that transition right. I mean, I was the energy minister for a time, and I remember when Hazelwood closed, the big brown coal-fired power station in Victoria. And when it did close, Victoria went from being a net exporter of energy to actually starting to import energy. And we had a massive jump in the wholesale energy price because Hazelwood was supplying about a quarter of Victoria's energy needs. So you've got to ensure that the transition is smooth. You've got to ensure that it leads to affordable energy and a reliable energy grid. And we're very conscious of all those facts and factors, and that's what Angus Taylor has been working on.
And finally, a lot of people are watching right now and they hear time and time again that the sky will fall in for the government, both politically and for our country, if this is signed. What would you say to them directly tonight?
Well, the key thing for people to understand is when our government takes actions, whether it's in the environment space, whether it's in the national security space, or whether indeed it's in the economic space, it's all about what is in the national interest. And there are many factors at play here. And so we're considering all those factors, working through the plans, not rushing to an announcement, and ensuring that we put an economic lens on our decisions. And your viewers know our deep commitment to jobs in the regions, our deep commitment to a stable energy grid, and our deep commitment to meeting our international commitments in whichever way and in whatever field we sign up to them. So we will proceed on this issue cautiously and in a considered way. We'll have more to say about it in due course.